Hi, and welcome to Trib Talk. I'm reporter Kathy Stephenson, and today we are talking to Salt Lake City's most amusing guidance counselors, the Old Coots. I feel a little disrespectful when I call you guys that, but these retired Utahns have become local and national celebrities, doling out advice each week at Salt Lake City's downtown farmers market. Of course, as they say, it's probably bad advice, but it's free. Joining us today are Tony Caputo, who owned and operated Caputo's Deli. His son Matt runs the store now, but Tony is there each day making sure things are good to go. So welcome, Tony.
That means that the bathrooms are clean.
That's your job?
It really is.
Yeah, and watering the flowers.
Carol Sisco spent 2 decades as a newspaper reporter in California, Ogden, and Oregon, and here at the Salt Lake Tribune. She had a second career as a public information officer for 2 different state agencies. And many years ago, this reporter sat next to her and listened to her good advice and her sometimes spicy language. Welcome, Carol. Good to see you.
Thank you, Kathy.
And finally, Gus Wheeler, a retired school teacher who normally loves to travel, but has been grounded like all the Old Coots and everybody else, thanks to the coronavirus. Thanks for being on the podcast, Gus.
Thank you.
Okay. For people who maybe don't know about the Old Coots, let's kind of go back in history. And Tony, why don't you kind of tell us the impetus for the group and how you met and formed the Old Coots?
Tony?
Tony, is Tony there?
You just came back. If
go.
I disappear, it's either that I'm thinking about something else and I'm lost, or I can't hear or see you.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yeah, hey, yeah.
Oh, good. Tell us the history of the Old Coots.
The Old Coots. Well, we've been getting together for coffee, and this group and others before, and maybe some in the future, but we drink coffee on Saturday mornings in my store, and we've done it for a long time. And one day I was looking out over at the farmers market, because it's right across the street, thinking, wow, there's a lot better stuff going on over there than there is at this table here. So maybe we should go over there and entertain ourselves. And it turned out that, I don't know how I came up with the idea of giving advice, but I just thought it would be something to amuse us. And lo and behold, people asked us real questions.
So you just took your chairs over there? I mean, now you have a whole booth with a sign. I mean, it's kind of evolved over how many years?
It's like when the band U2 travels, they've got like 10 semis. That's how it is when we travel. We've got roadies and it's really quite the undertaking.
I love it. So did you have to sign up, or do they just give you the space, or do you kind of hone in on the Caputo's market? Well,
Caputo's has been a sponsor of the farmers market for 20 years now, and we're very happy, and they're very kind. They let us in for nothing.
There you go.
And as it turned out, we got more hits on their Facebook pages, on whatever else they do, than anything else ever in the history of the farmers.
Well, hey, talk a little bit about the name. I hear that you had one name, but Carol had to set you straight. Carol, maybe tell us about the name.
Well, they started out, they were going to call it Old Guys. And Tony called me up and he says, what do you think? And I said, well, I know you don't mean it in a sexist fashion, but it sounds that way. And all of a sudden,
I meant it in a sexist fashion.
Well, but you said you didn't.
Oh, okay.
So I said, well, how about Coots?
I love that.
It just jumped into my head. And Tony, yeah, we're the Coots. And so before he even talked to anybody, he dashed off and had a banner made that said Old Coots on it.
Now there's more than just the 3 of you. How many are in the group?
7, I think.
Yeah, there's 7 of us.
Over 400 years of experience.
No, really?
bad
We
experience.
usually have Lou Borgnick, who's a retired pediatrician. We have Rich Klein, who's a businessman, and
Don Lesnett.
John Lesman. Yep.
And he-
John hasn't. He's incommunicado right now.
he told us he wasn't going to go anywhere near us while the pandemic was on. Or I think maybe he just didn't want to be with us, but he's not around.
Yeah.
Well, so
And-
oh yeah, there's more of you?
Well-
7 total.
It actually started out with Van Oker too,
Chris.
but you know his attention's is squishy.
He's just a young whippersnapper.
And he didn't
right?
show up unless we had an on-camera interview with someone.
That's
And then he tried to take over.
Those TV people. Well, you've caught the attention of national media. You've been on CBS News and the Washington Post, and people line up at the market. So were you kind of surprised when you got people asking you questions? I don't know, Gus, you want to answer that?
we were
Very
way
surprised.
surprised.
People are desperate for something to do.
That's right.
And the seriousness of some of them, it was,
So at first, what did they kind of go, who are you and what are you doing? And then,
wow.
They kind of jumped right in. They kind of taught us who we were. I
really?
mean, we were there fooling around, and they got serious.
Yeah, it was
Early
kind of-
on, I'd see people going by and say, hi, come on over. You want to
But at
talk?
first, we just thought it was more of a joke, and then some people really started to open up
Oh,
about some things and really wanted some advice.
So who were the people that kind of stopped by?
there was a teenage girl from China that she and her mom had gotten divorced from her dad. They just moved to the US. And she comes over and she has a couple of her buddies with her and they're holding on to her because she's really scared. And she says, you know, I don't know what to do. My mom is so caught up. She wants me to become a professional chess player and she wants me to do that all the time. And she said, I really need to be with my friends. And so we talked to her about, well, can you talk to your mom about how you really love her, but you also need some time with your new friends in the US and you need to get to know them. And she kind of calmed down after a bit.
Wow. You probably didn't expect that, right?
Well,
Tony, do you remember do any of questions stand out or people?
Yeah, it was almost the very first question we got, and a middle-aged woman. Middle-aged women to us are maybe she was between 30 and 50. How's that? And she was a nice woman, and she walked up to we have a table set up there, and we sit behind it. And she walked up to the table and she turned around and kind of bent over and put her butt out at us. And she said, do these pants make my butt look fat? And we all were wise enough not to answer, first
You
off.
did not answer.
No. But that was one of the first questions, and that just kind of kicked it off for us. We were ready for anything after that. And she just walked away. She didn't even really want to answer. She just wanted to watch our jaws drop.
One of the saddest ones I remember, a man walked up to us and he had his neighbor with him. And he looked at us and said, how do I learn to live with going blind?
Oh.
And we gasped, but then John and I knew a lot of the services that were available, like the School for the Blind.
Mhm.
And if he went there, they could teach him. If he wanted to learn Braille, he could do that. And they could help him figure out if he wanted a dog or a cane or. But still, we felt like we truly had no real solutions. How you learn to live with it, who knows?
I feel like a lot of people just need help, like access to resources, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I think a lot of people, they know what their friends and family are going to say about things.
Yeah.
That's sort of a given. And so I think a lot of them like bouncing stuff off strangers to see if maybe there's another angle they haven't
Mhm.
considered, or, like I said, I was surprised at how open some people were with a group of strangers.
Does anything stand out for you, Gus? Any certain question or
There's a lot of relationship questions. Young women, where do I meet a decent guy? Young guys, where do I meet a woman? we have had a couple of older couples who I'm pretty sure are divorced now.
Because of us.
Not because of us, but the questions they had were like, okay.
Should we get divorced? We're not
We had
happy.
one husband, when the wife asked us a question, he just looked at her, turned, and walked away.
Was that the guy that bought the $60,000 boat?
Yeah, he bought a $60,000 boat without talking to her.
Woke up one morning and there's a boat in her driveway.
Okay. Maybe your honest answers, right? I mean, do you feel like you just give honest answers?
Yeah, we tried to.
Yeah. What about, well, I think the lady with the pants is funny, but what's like the funniest question you guys have ever been asked?
That's kind of the funniest one I recall. There have been a lot of funny ones, but you know, we get so many. And what really surprised is, you know, the way young people will open up. We get a lot of young people, and it's like Gus said earlier, they want us to talk to someone who will be unjudgmental. You know, you can't tell your Uncle Jim that you just slept with the next door neighbor, especially, well, even after you're 15 years old. But you know, we've had those discussions. And, you know, it's something that they don't feel comfortable speaking to their grandparents about.
Oh, and Tony, so many of the young people don't know how to meet people.
Yeah.
And so I would talk to them about, well, maybe get offline for a bit. And what kinds of activities are you interested in? What do you like to do? You like to hike or something? And then I'd tell them about Wasatch Mountain Club and others about other things. And one young woman, she listened to us and she comes back the next week and she has another young woman with her and she says, I went up to Wasatch Mountain Club last week and we met there and we're going hiking together today. And it's just, they don't know how to connect in person anymore.
Does that kind of make you sad?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm glad they're so good online, but it's sad that they don't know how to go up and meet people. And I know how scary it can be. I mean, when I was young, I was terrified, but there weren't any other options.
Yeah. Have you ever given advice you regret or wish you hadn't given?
No. Even bad advice is good.
Every week we get afraid that someone we gave advice to is going to show up with their lawyer the next week. But that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened yet.
Now, how many years have you been at the farmer's market? How many years is this?
2 years, but we haven't been there this year. This would have been our third year.
And so that was kind of my next question. What was your reaction when you found out, you know, the market was not going to have you and it was, you know, scaled down? You know, how did that make you feel?
Actually, they said we could come, but we decided it would be too dangerous.
And we're used to rejection. You know.
Well, because you'd have to wear masks.
Yeah.
And do that.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I mean, that's okay. But I was really scared to sit out there like a sitting duck with all the people coming by that might have coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, so during the coronavirus, because senior citizens really have been limited their exposure and hunkered down. And I know for my mom and others, it's been really difficult. So how have you guys, because I know you're active, how have you, you know, kind of weathered these last 5 months?
I go to work.
Have you weathered it? Maybe we haven't. Maybe we haven't weathered it.
I've weathered it. The first few weeks I completely isolated.
Yeah.
Because I knew I had to. I just would go to Southwest Market because it was small and to the fish market and go home. But I haven't been as brave about going up in the canyons because they're so crowded.
Yeah.
And so I end up walking around the hills above my condo. It's almost impossible to go up City Creek because it's so jammed.
Yeah.
I've been nervous about getting on my bike, so I'm mainly going out walking.
Yeah, before it got so hot, we would go to different neighborhoods and walk around. Now we drove the Mount Nebo loop one day, drove the Skyline Drive one day just to get out and get up in the mountains and kill a day.
Yeah. Tony, what have you been doing?
Tony, you're off.
Tony, are you there? He doesn't hear us. He's not hearing us.
He takes his dog for walks.
He takes his dog. Well,
his wife's dog.
Well, so I'm going to ask you some questions, maybe people who, who might come up to you at the farmer's market. So if senior citizens, what is your advice for seniors like yourself, during the pandemic? What's your advice for them?
To do what? Keep getting older.
Yeah. To kind of, be happy, mental health, how do they weather it?
Spend a bit of time with a trusted friend. And keep your masks on and stuff, but especially if you live alone, it's kind of hard.
Have you been talking on the phone?
Not a lot. I don't like the phone.
I think it's hard, especially for a lot of grandparents and stuff who have to distance from their grandkids. And we have neighbors who are visiting and can't, you can't hug your grandchildren, or it's a tough time.
Yeah.
I think people are adapting as best they can. They're wearing masks and they are sitting outside and talking and doing what they can.
Yeah.
But it's tough for everybody. I can't imagine, the parents that have to decide whether to send their kids to school or not. I think, there are some hard decisions that are facing us that we've never had to deal with in our lifetime. So
a lot of the answers, there's no good answer either.
Yeah, that's the problem.
There may be, if you're lucky, a mediocre outcome.
Well, how about we have some questions from our readers. So we've got a question from Stephen. What is a new hobby I can pick up while maintaining social distance?
Hike. You can always hike alone.
Hike. You can hike alone.
In fact, you could take my wife's dog with you.
Because you don't want to do
available. Scooters available.
Learn a language, learn Italian, learn an instrument, a musical instrument. There's a lot of things, especially it's so hot, you could be inside and,
Okay. Any ideas for you, Carol?
Well, I'm afraid to get my old clarinet out because my neighbors have complained in the past.
A little noisy, is that it?
Too squawky these days. But I've been hanging out with a couple of retired tributers, and we get in each other's backyards. It's Randy Peterson and Ed Overbeck.
Yeah.
We take turns going to one another's backyards and sitting at distances, and we'll have a beer or two and food.
Perfect. Okay, we've got a question from Kate on Facebook. What's each of your one biggest piece of advice for owning a small business?
Have lots of money.
Yeah. Tony, you've owned a small business. What's your secret to success?
You got to be there to unlock the door in the morning, and you've got to be there to lock the door at night. And even though I had a partner at one time who thought his life was going to get easy because he was an owner, and you're the best dishwasher you have if you're in the food business. You're the best cook you have, because you have to be. Gosh,
you can't hand it off to somebody else.
Well, I don't know. People can. I'm in a business where, and I'm an old guy and used to doing things the way I do. I had no problem handing it off to my son because he's way smarter than me, and his wife is smarter than him. And, God, it's just, you better do something that you enjoy or you're good at.
Then it doesn't seem like work. Is that it?
It still seems like way a lot of work. I was up on top of my roof in 104 degrees yesterday because an air conditioning unit didn't work. So it's work, even when you're retired. But yeah, you better do what you want to do. Don't do something because you think it's easy, because nothing's easy.
But they say the best way to make $1 million, start with 2.
Yep.
I love it. Okay, so this is from Sarah. I'm worried about some of my relatives who aren't taking the pandemic seriously. How can I talk to them about their health and safety?
Bottom line, something's going to kill them. So, people are, if they're grown-ups, they can make their own decisions, but they can't put you at risk. So ground them.
And I will just tell people, I can't be with you if you're not going to wear a mask and stay at a distance.
Have you had to tell people that?
I like it, but
have you had to tell anybody that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just kind of a whole range of people. Some people want to wear masks, some people don't, some people are kind of in between.
Well, my point is, if I wear a mask and I'm wrong about this virus thing, well, the worst thing that's happened to me is I'm wearing a mask.
Yeah.
If I'm not wearing a mask and I'm wrong, well, that's a whole different situation. And people are, not only am I in danger, but the people around me are. So to me, the risk reward is so simple that I don't understand why there's a problem. But then again,
you don't carry around your Uzi with you where you go places either, though, Gus.
Well, so tell me, do you guys, I keep calling you guys and I don't want to call you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's okay. Guys is everybody.
Do you have topics that you don't like to talk about on questions, when people ask you questions? Are there any taboo subjects?
I haven't found any yet.
Well, we've kind of steered clear of politics.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to the point where I think we better start grabbing people by the neck and shaking them.
Oh dear.
That spooky.
Religion, do you talk, religion is always a topic in Utah. Do you stay away from religion?
well, some people have come up and asked us, about what they should do. They're, they have different religious views than their parents or something, and they're changing. And no, some people have been very honest about, not, I remember one woman said, my parents are quite upset with me, but I said, you got to do what, it's hard if some parents are really, this is the way it should be, and there are no exceptions. But
and conversely, if children are.
Mm-hmm.
So another Facebook follower has a question. What do you think you know about living a fulfilling life now that you don't know, now that you didn't know when you were 40? Like, are you all in your 70s, right? So what do you know now that you didn't
59.
know back then?
We don't know anything now.
I don't get it.
If we were fulfilled, we wouldn't be with each other.
But that's why you are together, maybe.
No.
And I don't worry about things as much now.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned, I had to learn living alone when my husband died. And, and I'd always been a bit of a loner. I have some friends, but I can entertain myself reading or riding my bike or.
I think Carol, you travel alone, which I think is unique for a woman, right?
I don't think it is.
Do you see it? Yeah.
Probably not normal for a Utah woman.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when I was 17, I went with a foreign language lead to France, and I had to take the bus to Portland to meet the group, and I was by myself for that.
Yeah.
But I've always done road trips by myself. And I mean, there were times even when I was married, if Doug didn't want to go or couldn't, I'd just take off. So for me, I think it's perfectly normal for women to travel alone. I think Utahns don't think it is.
Yeah.
So Kathy, when my wife Mary and I went to Greece the very first time with our son, who was 11 months old, people knew she was Greek, but they thought I was German. This is building on Carol's point. They thought I was German because they would say Americans don't like their children enough to travel with them. because at that time, that was back in the very early 80s, people didn't travel with their children much. So they didn't believe that we were Americans because we had our kid with us.
Yeah, your kid was... Times change, right?
Oh boy, made you want to cry.
Yeah.
You know, that was the prevailing thought of Americans, number one, and it must have been for some kind of a reason.
Yeah. Gus, what about you? What do you know now that you wish you had known when you were 40?
I've had a pretty lucky, happy life. I've a wonderful wife. Both adult children are employed. I just feel very lucky, very fortunate that I had a job that supplies a pension. And I guess I'm just happy I took some financial advice in my 30s and 40s to prepare for this time of my life that, that does give me some leeway to do the things, travel when I can get back to it, but to enjoy friends and family.
What's the advice? Yeah, what was the advice you got back then? Retirement. I think everybody always worries about retirement, you know. Should you retire during a pandemic? When should you start saving?
Oh, definitely. I think, put away as much as you can. I mean, I was never a spender, new cars and stuff like that were not that important to me. So it was kind of easy for me. I see people who, have to buy the latest things and, they've got a great car or a boat or something, but
$60,000 boat.
Yeah, 60, and it's just, I don't know. I just, I worry about with pension, the number of companies now that provide pensions it used to be close to 60%. Now it's close to 20%. How young people really need to think about the future way before they get there.
Mm-hmm. Living for today, you got to live for today and tomorrow. Maybe?
You got to make wise choices. Do enjoy today. I mean, I also feel bad. There was a story about this guy who never went to a baseball game, never did anything, and saved all his money, and he got scammed, and he lost all of his money. And I felt so terrible. But then I thought, well, yeah, but you didn't have to save it all. You could have enjoyed some things along the way. I mean, it's a horrible story. But it was also horrible in the fact that he didn't take any. He was waiting for dessert for everything. Sometimes have a little dessert first, but not always.
No. Well, what's just a little advice for maybe someone who's looking for a job, like a younger, because so many people have lost their jobs. Any advice for people looking for a job?
I don't think I have a clue. I don't know how you would find one anymore because there's so few jobs. Yeah. I wouldn't tell them to go into journalism like I would have a bunch of years ago, as much as I would like it.
You can be a writer though. There's lots of rooms.
Yes,
lots of jobs for writers.
Yes,
there you go.
Photographers.
But are they paid jobs?
Yeah, I was going to say, do they pay?
No, there are.
Okay, well, here's my question. Your best pandemic advice for somebody who is looking for sanitizing wipes. I still haven't found any. Where can I find some?
Get to Costco early.
Yeah.
Sometimes
7 a.m. Go to Costco 4 days in a row at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you'll score. Like when we were young, you went out to score drugs. You got to keep trying until you get them.
Okay. And my last question too is everything happens for a reason. So what are we supposed to be learning from the pandemic, do you think? What is our lesson to be learned from this?
I guess that we can survive anything.
Tony, what are we supposed to learn from the pandemic?
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost. Okay, Gus, your turn. What are we supposed to learn from the pandemic?
Well, I think just be grateful for what you do have, because life is tenuous. There's no guarantees.
Yeah.
There's.
Yep.
And,
Tony, what are we supposed to learn from the pandemic?
Mother Nature is going to get her way. That's what we're going to learn. We don't need to worry about climate change. We don't need to worry about melting ice caps. Humans will be extinct here in the next few years simply because Mother Nature can do that.
We should respect her a little bit more, right?
Well, if you want to get to be 70, you better.
Well, that's all the time we have today. I want to thank Tony, Carol, and Gus for joining us and sharing their wisdom. We'll see you next time. Stay well.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks for having
Kathy.
us.